Episode 65 was with Zander Hawley.
Adam was able to talk to him over Zoom audio, and he released an awesome single called Redcoats back in March. It's really great, so check it out.
And check us out on Facebook and YouTube at Bringing It Backwards and on Instagram and Twitter at bringinbackpod.
Follow us, please.
We're Bringing It Backwards with Zander Hawley. Zander, is that you?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Oh, hey. Yeah, now I can. How's it going?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Doing well.
Good.
Cool, man. So are you originally from Los Angeles?
I was born in New York, and then we moved to LA when I was 5. So yeah, really, I'm an LA child.
Okay.
Yeah.
5 years old. Right on. How'd you get into music originally? Was your parents into any musicians in the family?
My parents met in a band, actually, in New York in the 90s. Yeah. Which is just quite an image. You know,
awesome.
your 90s band in New York. But yeah, my dad was like the backup drummer, and 2 guys couldn't make it, and he showed up, and the rest is history.
Wow.
I started taking guitar lessons when I was like 6 or 7, and had an experience with a teacher who was upset that he wasn't playing concert halls, and scarred me a little bit in a lesson. And so I didn't play for a while. And then really, I was on and off until I started writing songs. And then I was like, oh, this isn't just, guitar for the sake of guitar was never the thing for me. But when I started seeing it as a way to express myself, that was really exciting. And that kind of is when it stuck, maybe around 15 or 16 years old.
And from there, were you playing in bands and stuff?
I had a duo in high school called Honeywater with a friend of mine named Amanda. And we did all of my first performances were with her. All my music firsts were with her. My first live show, playing original music, my first recording sessions, releasing all that kind of stuff. We have a couple EPs out. And then I moved to Nashville after high school for a couple of years and started just doing my own thing. And there was a moment, even while I was still in that band, where there was a song that felt distinctly mine and not to be sort of shared in a band setting, but like, oh, this is different.
So you had songs that were just yours that you thought they were more just like solo things?
Yeah, which sounds ridiculous because I was writing the other songs too. So they were,
okay.
It wasn't like I was co-writing and then I had some that were for me.
Sure.
But I think I really, really enjoy taking on different personalities and honing them. And so I think I had this one that was very influenced by all the music I was listening to at the time. It was a lot of folk, a lot of Mumford & Sons, a lot of Patty Griffin. And that influenced the Honeywater stuff a lot. And my Amanda played violin. So we were quite a folk duo. And then as my taste expanded a little bit and I got older and I had more complex things I wanted to talk about and write about and sing about, I started finding my voice a little bit differently than I might have expected to.
Oh, okay. You said a lot of your first in music came with that first band.
Yes.
So tell me about, you said the first time you played live was with that band. Why don't you tell us about that?
So I can actually tell you the moment that I knew I wanted to play live because it relates in a nice way. I had been writing songs, I don't know, 3 months, maybe longer, maybe it's closer to 6 months. And I went to see my friend who was playing a show at Genghis Cohen in Los Angeles on Fairfax. He was going to play a show with a friend of his who didn't go to our school. So I went to this Chinese restaurant to see them play. And he was playing with Phoebe Bridgers, who ended up becoming a great friend of mine. But I saw her play her song, Georgia. I saw them play her song, Georgia. And I on the way over there, I'd been like, well, I want to play, but I don't know if I'm good enough. And I saw her play that song and I was like, I don't care if I'm good enough. I want to do that. I want to do that forever. I want to be up there. I want to be playing songs. I want to make people feel the way she just made me feel, connected, all that kind of stuff. So then I think about 6 months after that, Amanda and I played at Genghis Cohen.
Wow. That's cool.
Yeah, I think it was September 6th, 2013 was the first show.
And then from there, were you guys playing just locally around LA? Did you tour at all?
We played around LA. We were both in high school, and she is an actress. So she was kind of in and out of town sometimes. But we just kind of found this really wonderful singer-songwriter folk scene happening in LA, especially among other high school kids at the time.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it was not something I expected to exist, and it all felt fairly easy, honestly.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, places like Genghis Cohen, and there's a Room 5. I don't know if you do you live in LA?
I'm San Diego, but I've been in LA a million times.
Okay. Well, over on La Brea, right by where it meets Beverly, there used to be this room called Room 5, which was above a restaurant and was a really great singer-songwriter room where we played many, many times. But places like Genghis Cohen and there, and maybe I said Amplify already, these like little rooms where, lo and behold, on a Friday night or Saturday night, or even I think weekdays sometimes on a school night, our friends would show up with their parents because none of us could drive.
Yeah.
And they would listen and we would all play, and we made some great friends that way. And the shows they were quite an experience. And I think I took them for granted because they were so easy right away. Because then, you grow up and you have more experiences and you have fewer people at some shows and massively more people at other shows. And it was just, I think, it was lost on me at the time how easy it was to get started.
Wow. That's cool. Yeah. Cause when I would think of high school bands, I'd think more of like, angry punk rock kids or stuff like that. Not the singer songwriter, like folk thing.
Yeah, no, we were all very gentle and just lightly sad.
I love that. That's cool.
Yeah.
So you said you moved to Nashville after high school.
Yeah. I went to go to Belmont to be in their songwriter program.
Wow.
Yeah, I dropped out after a year, and I didn't spend much time at Belmont while I was there. I actually didn't take a single music class at Belmont in a full year there as a music major, which was interesting.
That is interesting. How'd you pull that off?
Oh, I didn't do it. Wasn't necessarily what I was aiming for. But I only knew one person when I moved down there. And he didn't go to Belmont. He just lived there. And we ended up becoming close friends. And he introduced me to his circle of friends who were just all these amazing songwriters and musicians who I found myself aspiring to be like. And so that year for me was less about Belmont and more about having simultaneously your first year at college experience where you're away from home for the first time, and this sort of like artistic, I don't want to say revival because I don't even know if I was awake before, but like, yeah, this artistic awakening, I think, and just feeling so massively inspired all the time. And you're 18 and you just got to this new city and everything feels important. And every rejected date or every broken heart or every moment of stress or questions about your future, like it all feels so big.
Sure. Yeah.
And so I think it just contributed to this sort of massive outpouring of songs. I was writing all the time, which wasn't something I'd experienced before. I'd never thought of myself as anywhere near prolific before then. And
that was your first year there. You started writing and writing and writing. And that's where you formed kind of your solo thing? Yeah, that was, I had an EP that I recorded in LA that summer that I released while I was out there. But then, I ended up doing my first album, When I Get Blue, in Nashville in the spring. So I'd been living there like 6 or 7 months at that point. Okay. Right on. And were so you started playing out around that area? Like just in Nashville? Like how did you start getting gigs out there? Just open mic? Well, there's obviously a huge open mic scene down there. And there's I did a couple of, Belmont has this weird little
Curb Cafe, it's called, where there's a tiny stage in the corner of a Chick-fil-A.
That's amazing.
Which it is amazing. And sometimes it's amazing just for that. And sometimes it's amazing because there's like really wonderful music happening, or sometimes it's amazing because truly terrible music is happening. And that can be fun on its own.
And it's in a Chick-fil-A. That's just funny.
And yeah, I know. So, but beyond that, I was lucky to have that friend and that circle of friends outside Belmont who were all sort of already professional, because they could help me out a little bit. And I played shows with some of them, and they introduced me to spots like Puckett's, which is, I hope I'm getting that name right. I'm pretty sure that's it. I haven't been there in a little while, but it's a family owned sort of 3-location barbecue restaurant, but it's famous for its music. And there's one downtown near Broadway, I think on Church Street. And then there's one way out in the country in Leapers Fork, and one in Franklin. And so spots like that. And then more sort of modern venues like 3rd and Lindsley. Those are all places I was sort of playing while I was there at that time.
Cool. Are you signed to a label right now or no?
No, I'm independent.
Oh, cool. Very cool. Do you just have a management?
No, I do everything myself.
Oh my gosh.
At the moment.
That's really awesome.
I have a publicist, and she is really wonderful. And I used to have a lawyer, and I haven't heard from him in a while. So I've
that's probably
been
good.
Negotiating my own things, and yeah.
Wow, that's really cool. So
it's a lucky thing.
Yeah, because then you're not
to be able to do it now.
Yeah, because you can kind of do your own thing.
Yeah, back in the day, I wouldn't have been able to do anything. But, as much as I sometimes feel like, it would be nice to have a team around me sort of taking care of me, and I wouldn't have to do anything. There's, I'm in charge of everything. That's something to be grateful for.
Yeah.
And we have such a direct pathway to our listeners these days. It's wonderful. I think it's great.
Yeah, sure. Especially, the current situation, obviously.
Yes. Yeah.
Are you going live and stuff on your social media? Are you doing anything like that? Those living room concerts?
I had never gone live before until like a week ago, and I just assumed no one would show up. And, I'm not massive on social media right now. I have, I think, like 5,500 followers or something on Instagram.
That's great.
But I went live on it, and there were, 30, 40 people there for 2 hours, and they were asking me to play songs. And I was like, oh, this is really fun and unexpected. So I've done it, I think, a couple times since then. I had a song called Redcoats that came out last week or the week before, and I did a live sort of, quote unquote release show. And it's fun it's really a wonderful way to connect with people, and hear, what songs of yours are actually making an impact day to day.
Yeah, you're pretty much getting like feedback in real time from your fans and seeing what they want to hear and stuff.
Right. And it's nicely different from a show where someone yells a request at you, because it's easy to ignore and just pretend like you didn't read what they said in your comment section.
That's pretty good. You said that your parents met as a band in the 90s in New York City. Were they actively playing music when you guys moved to LA, or did they just kind of stop? No.
So I think, they met and they got married, and they had me, and my dad was working at an insurance firm, I think, as an assistant. I'm probably getting that wrong. But it was something like that. And he was writing scripts in the corner of his screen when his boss wasn't looking, until eventually, through a bunch of hard work and lucky connections and everything, he sold his first script. And so that's why we moved to Los Angeles. So he could be a screenwiter. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's really cool.
Yeah. And it's always been a really comforting thing to me that because he's a creator and showrunner for a show called The Rookie on ABC, which is a job that, 200 people in the world have maybe. Right. And he didn't write his first script until he was 30.
Wow.
So it's been massively encouraging to me my whole life, because I'm a perfectionist and an anxious person. And so whenever I don't see a result that I maybe hope for or expect, although I try not to expect things anymore, I can get anxious easily, and I can think, why am I putting time into this? And this isn't going to go anywhere. pursuing an artistic thing is stressful.
Yeah, exactly. Why am I not, at 1 million fans yet? Or why am I not this?
Right.
But yeah, all those people, everybody starts somewhere.
Right. And to kind of have in my back pocket of memory, which is not an expression, I'm sorry for making that up, to have, my dad, who is now a creator of a television show, who didn't write his first script until he was 29 or 30.
Mm-hmm.
And my first band, or my duo, we were called Honeywater.
Uh-huh.
And, those songs, I think those EPs to date have like 40 million plus streams on Spotify.
Jeez.
And yeah, and those were songs that I wrote before I knew. I was just talking to a friend about this the other day. I feel like we learn to worry when it comes to, life, but also our art and what we make.
Mm-hmm.
Like we learn to worry about what other people will think about it. So
sure, yeah.
The Honeywater songs were all songs that I had made before I learned to worry about what I was making. So I never really my brain never really had the option of going down you have to write for what the people want route, because
sure,
I had evidence already that they just wanted to hear what was happening with you.
Mm-hmm. And you wrote those songs when you were in high school.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's crazy. That's awesome. 40 million streams. Wow.
It's crazy. It's really nuts.
So you were in Nashville. How long did you stay in Nashville for? Were you there for a while?
Sort of. I was there for my Belmont year, and then I dropped out and I moved back to Los Angeles because I was 19 and I didn't know that you could just stay a place that you wanted to live. So I moved back to LA and I worked a job at a wine and cheese shop for like 6 months while we made the second Honeywater EP. And then I actually moved back to Nashville about 8 months after I'd moved back to Los Angeles to go to the Blackbird Academy, which is like a 6-month studio engineering crash course.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because I wanted to, really, it was my mom's idea, if I'm honest, but she was super right and it was super helpful. And I, once I got there, I realized how interested I was in kind of all phases of music, which was one of the best signs to me that maybe I was meant to be a musician, because I'm interested in every part of it. So I did that crash course and I put out my album while I was there and played a bunch of shows and kind of, again, had another artistic, inspirational period. And then I got into this program at USC back in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
They have a music performance and songwriting program that's like really hard to get into. And I tried to get in out of high school and I didn't get in. And I just felt like I owed it to myself to make the harder choice and leave the place where I was getting comfortable and go try to get better at this thing that I loved so much.
Mm-hmm.
So I moved back to LA again and I went to USC for 2 years and I just stopped going there in August.
Did you graduate from there then?
I did not. No, I did 2 years there and then I dropped out of a second music school just to prove my dedication to the bit.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, at the Blackbird Academy, is that where you recorded your whole album?
No. So my album I had done at Sound Emporium Studios in Nashville the year before.
Cool. Yeah, I wasn't sure if you were learning how to produce, right? Was that what you were taking?
Yes. Yeah. Producing and engineering and mixing. But I did, while I was at Blackbird, actually record, mix, engineer, produce an EP for an artist called Briston Maroney. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he's on Atlantic now.
Wow.
And it was like right before, maybe not right before, maybe like a year before he signed with them, we made this EP for free as my final project for that course. And let me look up and see, like, he's doing pretty well now. EP was called Big Shot, and I think the first song off it has like 1.5 million plays. And
wow.
Yeah. So all these like another example of just making a thing because you believe in it, mm-hmm. and not because you think it'll do well, and then that's what does well.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. So that demo you made was the one that got him signed to Atlantic?
That EP, I would hope was helpful to him in getting signed there. But I wouldn't want to give myself that kind of credit.
I see. As a solo artist, you have one album out and 2 EPs, or just?
As a solo artist, I have an album, an EP, and several singles.
Okay. And then do you have a new record coming out, or is it an EP on the way?
Yeah, I have a new EP coming out. It's scheduled for May. Theoretically, it will stay there, although who knows with anything right now.
Sure.
But yeah, as of right now, my new EP, which is called I Invented Time Travel, will come out on May 15th.
Awesome. May 15th.
Yeah. So I'm really excited about that.
What's the process on this one any different than the first record you put together?
Very, very much. Yeah. For this one, I went to like 9 countries in a month.
Oh my gosh.
Not on purpose, but I traveled to those countries on purpose, but it wasn't expressly for the purpose of making an EP. I just felt I had gotten away from myself a little bit and wanted to take some time to explore. And I had some money saved up, and I had, a free period after I was playing guitar for my friend Charlie Adams on her tour, and it ended in Boston. And once I knew it was going to end there, I bought a one-way ticket to Dublin and just decided I would figure it out from there.
Wow.
And yeah, I think it was something like nine countries in a month.
Jeez. So you just went out there, you just bought a one-way ticket out to Dublin? Is that what you said?
Yeah, it did not make the customs lady very happy.
I can imagine. You moving here?
Yeah. She said, "How long are you going to be here?" I was like, "I don't know." She was like, "Well, what? I need to know that you're leaving the country." Yeah. So that was a nice welcome.
That's funny. So you went to Ireland. Where else did you go? You said 9 countries?
Yeah, I did Ireland, London. I know that's not the country, but I'll just say the cities. And people can figure out the Ireland, London, Paris, Bruges, Ghent, Amsterdam, Copenhagen, Gothenburg, Oslo, Bergen, and Iceland.
That's awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah.
You were writing when you were in these places? You just kind of went there to clear your head?
I went to Ireland to clear my head. I got to London and I was looking for a guitar, and I found this beautiful 1968 Gibson knockoff that I think is either Japanese or German, called a Rancher. And I couldn't believe that it was $200. It's like my favorite guitar that I own. And I carried it the whole rest of the way with me. And I was having a lot of song starts and not a lot of song ends. A lot of ideas happening, and just a lot that I was trying to process as I was entering this sort of new stage of my life and figuring out how to get back to who I was and who I wanted to be, etc. Mm-hmm. And ultimately had sort of a song breakthrough in Sweden. I met friends in Sweden. There was the only place on the trip that I knew people. And we went to one of their family friends' homes for the midsummer holiday, mm-hmm. and just had this like absurdly, outlandishly beautiful Swedish holiday with, strawberries and fresh whipped cream for breakfast. And we went on the boat and we jumped into the ocean in the rain. And it was just very restorative, mm-hmm. and transformative feeling. And so I ended up writing a song the next day that was sort of like the first song that just flowed out start to finish. And then the next one was Iceland, and, another very sort of reflective song. And both of those ended up on this EP.
Wow. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Were you traveling by yourself, or did your family go with you?
No, I was by myself the whole time, except for when I was in Sweden and I met those friends.
Wow. Was that kind of scary? Like, you're being in 9 countries you've never been in, like, were you confused at all? Or I think I would be terrified of that. Yeah, it kind of just, it's funny. I don't even think I really understood the gravity of what I was doing. I feel like, I was coming straight off of a 2-week tour, and my mind was a little all over the place because I've been so focused on trying to make the shows great. Mm-hmm. And I think I just kind of like ended up in Dublin, and
had my first sort of like stress breakdown in Paris a week later. But so there were a couple of those, and I had never traveled alone before, and it's super emotional because you're by yourself all the time.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, but the other benefit, or the flip side of that, the benefit of that is you're by yourself all the time. So and sometimes you have to make decisions quickly. And so you can't really afford any pretense. You don't get to be anyone other than who you really are.
Yeah.
Because you'll lose it if you try. If you try to go do things you don't want to do or live for someone else's approval, etc.
Sure.
It won't work. So it was a really great way to come back to myself and to come back to, I feel like, writing for myself and not writing for, well, the last song didn't do as well as I hoped it would, so this one needs more of this or that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, totally.
So it was a super helpful reset in that way. But yeah, definitely intimidating. And there were some troublesome moments.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
Yeah.
So your parents were in a band in the 90s, moved to LA. You said your mom was encouraging you to go to the Blackbird Academy?
Yeah, that was pretty much her idea and her push, and I thank her often for that.
Yeah. How else have your parents impacted you in your music career?
Oh, they've just been super supportive. I never had, I had a friend at USC who, his parents made him switch out of this super exclusive drum program, and he was super talented, but they were nervous that he wasn't going to be able to make money. So he switched to being like a poli-sci major or something. I never encountered a scenario even remotely like that.
That's amazing.
Yeah. No, they encouraged me to drop out of Belmont when it wasn't where I wanted to be. And, rather than seeing that as sort of a failed experiment, my mom was like, why don't you go back to Nashville to another school? And, I'm super, super lucky that they paid for it. I'm super grateful that they did that. Mm-hmm. They have been so supportive, the most supportive.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like you said, they're encouraging you, even if I'm going to leave this school. Okay, well, it's not for you. Let's go try this. Whereas most parents would be like, no, you're going to finish and get your degree and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And they didn't only encourage me through successes. Because there were some early, there was all the Honeywater shows that went so well, mm-hmm. and the EP that did really well at first. And then when things kind of slowed down a bit and I was like, I need to not go to this school, and I'm back here working a job and I'm unhappy. And, the down moments, they weren't like, we'll go get an accounting degree. They were,
yeah,
they
totally.
said, let's try that. Let's try another angle. Let's try another way in.
That's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah, I have the best parents in the world. I'm super lucky in that way.
Yeah. And I saw that you had one of your songs was in a television show, right? Too, right?
Yes. Yeah. I've had a couple syncs, one of which was a really great experience. I got to sort of make the song for the show with my dad, because he's a drummer and he was writing on the show, and he encouraged me. The show was The Following, with Kevin Bacon.
Kevin Bacon,
yeah.
That's a great show.
So he was working on that, and he was like, hey, I know it's not your normal bag, but if you write a super creepy song, I can pitch it to the people, at the network and see if we can get it into the show. And so my first professional experience in any way was sort of making this song in GarageBand at home with my dad, and it ended up on the show. And that was,
wow.
Again, like a combination of working really hard, but also a lot of luck and a lot of people wanting to help me out. And that's something I'm very grateful for as well. But yeah,
that's really cool.
Yeah, it was amazing. You never get used to hearing yourself come on a TV show. It's not a thing that gets normal.
I was going to ask, do you remember watching the episode when it aired and hearing your song?
Yeah. And it's super, the moment that it aired, the moment that the song comes in that episode of The Following is so dramatic. And it's this two, I think, FBI agents, one of them's got kind of a dark secret, and he shoots the other one by accident. And then my chorus crashes in, and I was like, are you guys serious? You trusted me to help the emotion of this moment? That's okay. If you guys say so, if you think I got it.
That's really cool. That's super cool.
It's the definition of surreal to me and I had a song on his show, The Rookie, as well.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's not like, I've been a Nathan Fillion fan my whole life. I love Firefly. I love Slither. I love everything he's been in.
Mm-hmm.
And, you see him walking up to break up with his girlfriend. You hear your song come on and you're like, I don't think, like, is someone playing that from the other room? What's going on?
Yeah. It's still hard to fathom.
Yeah, exactly.
That's so cool though.
Yeah. No, it feels super lucky. And I'm super lucky to get to like collaborate with my dad and sort of making his dream and his art and trying to support that.
Sure. Was that pretty, was it exciting working with your dad on you said The Following was the first song or the first show that you got your song in, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So you wrote that with your dad together?
I wrote it myself and then he helped me sort of record it and build it out.
Oh, cool.
He played drums on it as well. Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask, have you, like, when you toured, have your parents came with you on tour before?
No. So the tours I've done, I did a West Coast and an East Coast tour opening up for a band called The Naked and Famous.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, I love that band. That's really cool.
Me too. And then last year I played guitar for my friend Charlie Adams. She was opening for Henry Jameson, who's one of my favorite songwriters. And so no, my parents didn't come on either of those tours. The Naked and Famous tour was their sort of stripped album or their acoustic-ish album.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a guitar player called Mason Stoops playing with me for the LA shows, but then when we left California, it was just solo.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah.
So you got to open up for them and just go out by yourself and play?
Yep. Yeah. Which felt, I think, cosmically appropriate because, again, I am independent and they came to me knowing I was independent and they just really liked the music, and the song that turned them on to me was kind of a solo acoustic performance that my friend Phoebe, who I mentioned earlier, also sings on. And I just always have felt like when I get lost a little bit, that's always the foundation to come back to, is playing by yourself. I had a show several years ago that maybe I was a little ambitious with the size of the venue I booked and the time of year, and, luck can conspire to help you and luck can conspire against you.
Yeah.
And it just was one of those shows where there's, 4 or 6 people there in a 250, 300 cap room.
Uh-huh.
And it felt awful. And I felt so embarrassed and so bad. And I felt like quitting and giving up. And I ended up playing over the next, I think, 2 or 3 weeks, like 2 or 3 solo shows. And it just totally restored my faith in everything.
That's amazing.
Because for that show that no one came to, I had put a huge band together and I had guests coming up, and like I spent a ton of money unnecessarily. And it was really wonderful to just go be like, at the end of the day, no matter what, if I have a guitar, I can put on a show. And that is a skill that I really value. And I'm grateful. And it is important to me to be able to do that. To be able to, if all the lights go down and all the sound equipment breaks and we're in the middle of a tour and a show has to happen, to feel like I can go out there and I can put on a show by myself, because it's what I love to do. I don't ever want to not do it.
Sure. Yeah. So on that Naked and Famous tour, what was that like? That was your first experience touring with people? It was just you and somebody else on your crew? Yeah.
So I had like a very light intro to touring when I had driven up to Indianapolis with Phoebe and 2 of our other friends one year when she did the Julian Baker tour. I just drove up with them for like one show, and then my friend and I drove back to Nashville. But I was so obsessed with the feeling of it. And I love going new places. Travel always really activates the songwriting side of my brain. But to imagine at that time, like going to a city and arriving just to play a show and then leaving, like I loved that idea. So to get to do that with Naked and Famous was like the biggest dream come true. And to go with Charlie on her tour opening for Henry too. Like touring is just the most amazing thing in the world to me. And the Naked and Famous tour was wonderful. Yeah, I had Mason Stoops playing with me. in LA and in Santa Ana. And then we took off for, I think San Francisco was the first non-local show. And it was just me.
Wow.
And I was very lucky that they had one seat open in their van. So I got to ride with them. And so from there, I basically just matched my travel plan to them. But I'm well aware that it's not your typical first touring experience. We weren't playing shitty venues and our van wasn't breaking down constantly. Like it was a luxurious first tour. We were staying in hotels. Like, yeah.
That's cool though. I mean,
yeah,
that's a cool way to start.
Yeah. No, I'm not complaining. I'm not wishing for the problems.
Totally.
It was an amazing first tour experience to have. And so, yeah, we started with West Coast and we did, I think 10 or 11 shows, San Francisco, Portland, Seattle, etc. And then we flew out to Colorado to do a couple there. And then 2 months later, we went to the East Coast and we did Boston and New York. Did we do Boston? No, we didn't. I lied. That was the Charlie tour. Sorry. We did New York and Washington, D.C. And it was Northampton, Massachusetts that we played, not Boston. Which is not a town anyone has heard of. But it was fun. No, it was great.
Nice. That's really, really cool.
Yeah. And they're all just really lovely people. And it was, I think, like an average 10-year age gap. Mm-hmm. I'm turning 23 in a couple weeks. And I think they were all around 30 at the time we were doing that tour. So I was learning a lot too. And it didn't feel competitive. It didn't feel like, just in no way did the environment feel toxic. It felt nurturing and it felt like they were there to support me more than you would normally expect the headlining band to support the opener. And it was just a really wonderful experience. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, happy birthday, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. Looking forward to it. I think I'm going to go nowhere and do nothing.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Our older son had to have his 12th birthday under quarantine, and our son that's going to turn 4 next month, it looks like, or in April 23rd, it looks like he'll be stuck inside as well, unfortunately.
Yep. Yeah, he and I are close. I'm April 19th. So maybe we'll have a LA to San Diego distance joint birthday party.
You should. That'd be rad.
I get along great with toddlers. So.
He's a handful. So
yeah.
Well, thanks so much for talking to me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, of course. I was wondering if you had any advice for aspiring artists.
Yes. Do what you want. I feel like the thing that's come across to me the most, either from my mentors or people I admire or just my own experiences, is you can get successful doing something you don't want to. If you really love music and you're working really hard and it's all you want to do, you can get successful. So you have to make sure that you're going to get successful the right way. You know, there was a producer who was kind of pursuing me to work with me and really kind of being shown attention as an independent artist is a really hard thing to ignore, because so often you're being ignored. So it can be easy to see someone throwing attention your way and feel like, you know what, I should do it. They like me. They've got this Grammy nomination from 12 years ago. You know what I mean? So, but you have to do it for yourself. Otherwise you'll be unhappy.